Brandenburg Airport, the monumental failure that became reality. This brand new international airport sat abandoned for nearly a decade. A ghost train operated once a day, traveling from the nearby city, not to ferry passengers, but to keep the air circulating. The hotel inside remained eerily empty, its staff a mere skeleton crew, tasked with dusting abandoned rooms and running taps to prevent the water from becoming stagnant. The luggage carousels spun aimlessly every day, not delivering bags, but simply to prevent the machinery from seizing up. The flight boards, meant to display incoming and outgoing flights, had been replaced, worn out by years of inaction. This was Brandenburg Airport in 2019, Europe's most controversial and disastrous airport project, one that had taken 3 decades to complete. By 2020, after years of delays and mismanagement, the airport finally opened. But for those walking through its gleaming terminals, it was hard to imagine that only a few years before, it was little more than an empty shell. The question on everyone's mind: how did this project, so grand in ambition, end up in such ruin? The truth is as complex as it is shocking. A vision gone wrong. The idea for Brandenburg Airport was born in the wake of the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989. It was meant to be a symbol of a newly unified Berliner beacon for international travel, and a testament to the rebirth of Germany. But the execution was far from perfect. The new Berlin needed an airport to match its new status. The existing airport Stegel, Tempelhof, and Schanefeld were outdated and could no longer handle the growing number of passengers. The solution: a state-of-the-art hub that would rival Europe's best. But the vision quickly began to unravel. In 1996, it took 6 years just to decide on a location. The site was chosen right next to Schanefeld, and by 2004, the project was officially approved. Yet, the first shovel didn't hit the ground until 2006, just in time for the global the chaos of mismanagement. To save money, the project was broken down into smaller contracts, each overseen by different contractors. This fragmented approach led to an explosion of complexity, with no clear oversight. At the heart of the design process was architect Meinhard von Gerken, who had already made a name for himself designing Berlin's central railway station. But his vision clashed violently with the politicians and developers in charge. Von Gerken despised the trend of airports turning into shopping malls, where passengers would drag unwanted bottles of whiskey across terminals. He wanted a practical design, free from excess retail spaces. The politicians, however, were more focused on making money. They insisted that the airport be filled with shops. Retail was expected to generate up to 50% of the revenue. Meanwhile, the mayor demanded the airport accommodate the Airbus A380, even though the aircraft was already on the verge of being discontinued. As the design kept evolving, the scope of the project kept changing. The terminal was reworked to include gates for larger planes, but without regard for the growing low-cost airline industry. Each revision only delayed the project further. Deadlines came and went, each more unrealistic than the last. The failed opening and humiliation. By 2012, the airport was finally set to open. Invitations had been sent, the press was waiting, and the world was watching. But just weeks before the grand unveiling, disaster struck. A last-minute inspection revealed that the entire fire safety system was completely faulty. Without the necessary safety measures, there was no way the airport could open. The grand opening was cancelled, sending shockwaves of embarrassment across Berlin and Germany. But the problems didn't stop there. Further investigations uncovered over 120,000 defects, including 170,000 kilometers of incorrectly installed cable. The scale of the issues was staggering. As the project continued to spiral out of control, von Gerken was fired. His successor, Horst Meyer, took over and conducted his own investigation, which revealed even more devastating failures: 550,000 faults in total. The cost of the project ballooned from an initial estimate of 2 billion euros to over 7 billion. A decade of delay and empty halls. The years rolled on, and with each passing year, Brandenburg Airport sat empty, waiting for an opening that never came. The planned opening in 2013 never happened. Then, 2014 came and went. 2017 passed without a word. Finally, in 2019, it became clear to everyone that the airport would not open. In 2020, the world changed. The worst time to open an airport. In October 2020, after nearly a decade of delays, Brandenburg Airport finally opened its doors right in the middle of a global pandemic. Travel restrictions were in full effect, and the aviation industry was in freefall. But in a strange twist of fate, the timing actually worked in the airport's favor. With fewer passengers than expected, Brandenburg had time to work through its many issues without the scrutiny of mass public attention. While the world's airports were suffering, Brandenburg Airport had the time it needed to quietly address its flaws. What should have been a chaotic disaster instead turned into a soft opening that allowed the airport to fix technical issues with minimal disruption. A final redemption. By 2022 and 2023, Brandenburg Airport was finally starting to recover. It had won several awards for innovation, including the Airport Innovation Award in 2023, beating out competitors such as Vienna, Frankfurt, and Amsterdam. Today, Brandenburg Airport is operating smoothly, fulfilling the promise of a unified Berlin and serving as a symbol of Germany's forward-looking future. It may have taken a long time to get there, but this airport, once a colossal failure, has finally taken flight.